Ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, Stuart. Hi, Emma.
Hi.
Hello. So we're finally managed to get on to hitting a Zoom meeting. Finally, I was stuck underground on a train. Emma was dealing with dogs. Stuart was the only one who had was on time and was able to kind of keep their lives in check.
Well, I was until I went then to do the washing up. So Mark was sat in my living room, just like a lovely guest, but one that I was a poor host to do. So my apologies for that.
So we're so delighted to be able to have you guys. Having seen you, it's a really great show. We're just really excited to have kind of representation of both the regional scene and Stuart joining us coming up, which is brilliant. We've got a really strong lineup for the Thursday. It's the first time we've put together a triple bill and indeed a double bill, so it'll be exciting to see putting different like a triptych of work together and seeing how that operates, which I think would be really cool. So a question that I've asked all of our guests so far on this series is something that's inspired you this year. What's stuck in your brain? It could be a piece of art, it could be a film, it could be a piece of music. There are many things. It could be something you've seen in nature, or so and we're not counting 25, we can kind of go to give it a full calendar year. What's one of those things that's really stuck with you where you kind of go, oh yeah, that's still in my brain?
Well, I'll just kick off because it's actually a piece of art. And so last year, for my dad's birthday, we all went to see the Van Gogh immersive exhibition. And the title escapes me, but Starry Night, maybe it was called that. But anyway, you walk into the exhibition centre and Van Gogh's paintings are like writ large, projected right across four walls of the gallery, and they're animated, they moved. You could sit in this glorious painting, and it was so mesmerizing. You could go close to the screen and see the detail of Van Gogh's work, or just like sit in the center of the room and just feel like this wash of color. So that really, really stayed with me about, about how familiar we are with Van Gogh's work, but to be inside his paintings was really great. And I love being immersed. In whatever, in art, in theatre or music. I just like feeling like I'm inside something. So that really moved me last year. That was inspiring. Stu?
Wow. I can't remember. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I did. We didn't book and go, but I have seen I have seen all the images and people sharing on social media, and so I'm absolutely aware of it. But it looks like the first time where new technology has been used in a really, really cool way, other than Disney, in terms of Disneyland and stuff, because it's a great tool, but it's one of those things where sometimes the production value is lumped on. This feels like it's really beautifully conceived to
Yeah.
have a very visceral and emotion connection, and look at art and look at those particular pieces of that particular art in a very, very different way. So sort of almost like reframing how you see something.
Yeah, particularly because you were free to walk around the gallery space, so you could actually watch Van Gogh's paintings come alive, and you can see his work from different angles. So yeah, that was it. It did reframe it a lot. So you could take different things. You could really inspect the detail, or you could sit and just feel, and feel moved and immersed. And so I did a bit of both. But yeah, the technology was outstanding.
And Stuart, how about you?
So also technology based, but ChatGPT. I am worried that this answer will age badly, but at this point in the human's evolution, I've just found it an amazing learning tool. So the ability to ask a very specific question and then to interrogate the answers So I might ask it to explain. Well, I've been getting into songwriting recently. So what I've been doing is when I've been writing songs, I've said, "Oh, please, can you tell me how to write songs in the style of Dead Can Dance or someone like that?" And then to get the answers, and they'll say, "Oh, you know, you need to write in certain keys and things like that." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know what that means. Please tell me." And then you can ask it, and anything you don't understand, you can ask it to explain more clearly. So obviously, you know, I learn from people and I learn from books and I learn from videos, but just having that ability to sort of get, I was going to say drill down there, I'm going to say drill down, to get more detail has been very powerful. And when using it for improv, because I also teach improv in Reading, and the ability to say, okay, I'm going to run a session on commedia dell'arte or something like that. And I'm not an expert on that, but it can just generate ideas, and also it can give me exercises. And it's so clever to the extent that I once said, "Oh, please, can you give me more interesting exercises?" And it gave me more interesting exercises. And so, yeah, it may be the cause of the downfall of humanity, but at the moment, it's really helping me teach in a very excellent manner on Monday evenings in Reading. So you decide whether it's worth it or not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you know, I've started to dip my toe into something, you know, and we're not digital natives. And so, you know, it's one of those things where, and I'm certainly not an early adopter, but I'm certainly kind of going, okay, let's see what this might be and how we might be able to use it in a really interesting, in an interesting manner. My one concern, um, which was raised by Sandy Toksvik in the stage a couple of weeks ago, is around the new copyright law that Labour are looking to introduce, which doesn't necessarily protect artists in the same way that it might once have. Because essentially, I listened to this thing on Radio 4 about how Google are mining data left, right, and center. And because we are, you know, we're a country that is looking to put some safeguards in place, but the internet's just open. How can you? There was a brilliant woman from who runs Mumsnet, and they're just data mining all of their stuff. They can see it happening and they can't stop it. So yeah, I'm at the same time, it's very exciting. At the same time, I'm a bit like yourself, Stuart. It's kind of going, is this the end of days? Are we are we going to wake up and find, you know, Terminator? I watched Terminator the other day, the first one, and kind of going, oh my God, is it going to be Skynet? Is it going to be this? It's like, but yeah, I think it's very exciting in terms of the potential for efficiency in terms of and new ideas um, and and is it Improbotics who utilize that sort of AI
Yeah,
generation
Piotr. Yeah,
to start?
yeah.
So I think
Piotr has always been very patient with me when because Piotr was doing AI, you know, 6, 8 years ago before it got popular, and he's very patient whenever I mentioned Terminator. I could see behind his eyes he was quite sad and angry, but he was very patient with my Terminator reference. He's very confident about the future, and you know, doesn't think that well, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he doesn't think that computers are going to turn on us. Essentially, I mean, let's face it, people are already doing enough bad things, you know. So, who are we to judge?
yeah, or maybe like you say, maybe it's the next stage of evolution where our laptops come up and start smacking us around and control. I don't know. I'm just ever so slightly, a bit like yourself, just ever so slightly wary because it feels like a, you know, it does feel like, you know, when I was a kid, if someone had told me I was able to walk around with my entire record collection in my pocket, I would never have believed them, you know, and that's within 50 years, you know, the iPhone is more powerful than the computer that got us up to onto the moon. So in terms of the leap of technology, it's just like, oh, I can't quite get my head around it. It feels slightly overwhelming. And then it's also like, how do we incorporate that potentially into our work, which thrives on spontaneity, thrives on in the moment.
That's what I was going to wonder out loud then is there anyone doing scenes with an AI scene partner?
Yeah. Piotr, and as Mark mentioned, is doing improvotics. He's been doing it for years now. It's a very tech-heavy show. In the past, I've dabbled with projections and soundtracks and things like that. And I complained about the tech-heavy nature of that. And then Piotr comes on, and he's got a robot that's been trained. He's doing satellite links, around the world. So I'm like, okay, I am no longer allowed to complain about my tech issues.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of, it's one of those things where I just think, I wonder how this is going to evolve and how we might be able to incorporate it into our work. I mean, one of the most interesting things for us as a festival is we're very keen on making things accessible, and so we've been looking at this piece of software and hardware which allows, because one of the things we found is BSL interpreters is they're very nervous about working with improvisers, because obviously with scripts and stuff they have particular tone, they can work to that tone, they kind of know what's going to happen. With improvisers, obviously they don't know. There's this amazing piece of kit which is driven by AI, which allows people with headsets, i.e. microphones, and they can then project up the conversation in real time, as opposed to it being delayed, which I think would be, for us, if we can eventually fundraise, it was a lot of money, but I think if we were able to do that, then that really gives us opportunity to open up our festival to those who are of a non-hearing audience, deaf and non-hearing audiences, which is, if that's the thing that we can do, I think, well, we'll embrace that, because it's a piece of technology that we can't currently, because very often with surtitles, they're already typed in and someone's either hitting it manually, or the delay on translation is so slow that they're not there's no point in having it really.
So I would say that Moses and Bird are a completely un-AI organized duo at the moment, but who knows what the future will hold.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be instead of Moses and Bird, it'll be Moses AI Bird or something.
Good work. I've always wanted to do, anyway, this isn't the time to approach it, but I've always wanted to do an improvised Terminator, where you get the time period from the audience and then you reenact Terminator in different time periods. Yeah, this isn't one for you and me, I don't think. This isn't bringing joy to your face. I shouldn't
I've never seen
it. I've never seen offline, really.
You know what? I'd love to see that.
2026, live 2026.
just covered in tinfoil. The naffest Terminator, the naffest homemade Terminator you could possibly, could create. And then it'll be something like out of Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I would do that. I would wrap myself in tinfoil and just be an agent of chaos as Terminator. Because I've never seen it. So I wouldn't know any of the references, nothing. And I actually like being a bit like Agent of Chaos when I don't know anything. Well, which is why I ask you, Stu, to gift me something that I know nothing about, because I actually like it. Challenges me as an improviser to get a bit in a pickle and try and get out of a pickle. I enjoy that.
So the audience love it as well. So it delights you and it delights me. But the audience takes one look at Emma's face and goes, "This is somebody that knows nothing about this thing that Stuart has just mentioned." But the fact that you are able to cope with it, I think, is hugely entertaining for an audience. Because if you're in an improv audience, you're mainly going, "Oh, I'm glad it's not me up in that difficult situation." But then to see you negotiate out of a difficult situation, it's a beautiful thing. So I will continue doing that at every opportunity.
And to own that space of kind of going, I'm now kind of absolutely believing in what I'm saying, but I don't know if this is true or not. And that's just gorgeous.
And not caring whether it's like accurate, true, or whatever or not. I mean, I once guested in an improv team that their genre was Marvel, the Marvel comic universe. Well, at that point in my life, I'd never watched a single Marvel film in my life. And but they said, "Would you like to guess?" I said, "I don't know anything about Marvel." And they said, "Great, because we do." And I went, "Okay, great. I'll just be the agent of chaos." And honest to God, you should have seen their faces. Like I was saying all sorts of nonsense in a very, comedic and grounded character. But it was clearly nonsense because these kind of like Marvel, geeks were like they were like, no, no, no. I think I said something like Captain America is lactose intolerant or something like that. So so it was just like through care. I was the one throwing curveballs at them because I was just making shit up.
Well, in many ways, that probably wouldn't be, that'd be far from the truth. I wouldn't, I could absolutely see that he's intolerant and has, on many occasion, been handed a cheese and pickle sandwich whilst on the thing, and then had spectacular explosions in the
That's
wrong.
what the MCU is known for: spectacular explosions, but maybe
Yes.
not of the sort you were talking
Yeah,
about.
exactly. It doesn't exist in that pantheon, Emma. What are you on about?
That's the idea for the next show, then.
Yeah. So Terminator meets Marvel slash Agents of Chaos. There you go. There's your title, Agents of Chaos. Fabulous, brilliant. So well, thank you so much for sharing. I don't know, put my teeth in for sharing those. So in regards to the work that you've created, was there anything that inspired you? Because obviously, TwoProv is kind of, I think it's very brave because, obviously they say three is the magic number. You can hide a little bit of an ensemble in an ensemble. There's kind of, the relationship of having two people having to drive something, I think is really one that is very brave in the sense of it kind of stands and falls on your shoulders. So is there anything that particularly inspired you in regards to perhaps other TwoProv teams that you may have seen?
Who wants to? Yeah.
Go on. I was just going to say we've got to give the obligatory TJ and Dave mention out of the way, because they are fantastic. Although Anthony Barnish and James Carmichael from Manchester are what I describe as the UK's answer to TJ and Dave. So they're also very good. I love being in a duo. Well, first of all, Emma's just brilliant to play with. So she's got such a great depth of acting and directing and storytelling ability that I know whatever I can throw at her, she's going to be able to cope with. But there's just yes, it's scarier having only two of you, but it's also more. I think it's more fun. I think I trust myself and I trust Emma and I trust the audience, and yeah, I just think there's more freedom, and let's face it, there's also more stage time, which is a lovely thing.
I want more stage time.
I actually find that it's simpler to improvise with two people, especially if it's somebody like Stuart who I just trust implicitly. I just you can't get a safer, a more supportive pair of hands than Stuart's, because in that sense it's simple, because whatever it like we really do like trust each other and each other's ability to hold a scene, carry a story, change character, and all of that. I completely trust him with timing. Don't ask me to time the show. He will time the show. But so I think it's simpler to improvise with somebody who you trust implicitly on stage, and there's less ideas boshing about. There's less ideas being thrown into the cauldron. There's a clarity I find with TwoProv.
And also, we discovered that we really love multi-rolling. We did one show where we were in the car, Emma was driving on the way there, and what should we do with the show tonight? Not a lot of planning, but it's like, let's just keep it simple. And then we start doing the show, and we're running around and we're pretending to be ghosts, and we're just, and we hadn't planned it, but it fitted the show, and it was just a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
it's really interesting because even though I mentioned ensemble shows, they tend to be series of two-handers which are intercut with other, and then potentially people are scenically dressing. So I think that the TwoProv is inherent within often within sort of more scaffolded ensemble work. You know, there's numerous examples of that, and I've used that myself in terms of making bigger pieces. You kind of go, because there's enough noise going on. As an ensemble member, you can then support either scenic painting, and then you can you're the editors who's going to make the decisions when we move on. So allow people to have that there. So in regards to broadly, you know, I said American cousins, no, so North American, I include Canada within that. Obviously, there is a huge amount written and seen about that scene, and their influence is obviously very well documented. And you know, we have regular teachers. Emma brought the brilliant David over to kind of come and work in Liverpool, which was an amazing experience for me, because very often I kind of look at workshops and I kind of go, this is not, you know, I've sort of been there, done that. But to have someone of that ilk to kind of come and really challenge you, I found was very, very special.
David Rosowski is he's so very clear about his perspective, whether you agree with him or not. And I don't think it matters whether you agree with him. He's very, very clear about what he's trying to get across. So yeah. He's almost, I wouldn't recommend like you want to kind of like, if you've got an improv career or journey, don't do them in the first 6 months. I would say get the basics, and then, you know, but then when you're ready for him, it's
like get the basics, then break the basics.
But exactly, but if you don't know the basics, then, you know, breaking them,
I mean, the one thing I found was that which I never liked to do, and I never liked to feel that way, was I felt like I was walking around a little bit with a list in my head, and so I wasn't wholly present. But I think that's about repetition and repetition and repetition of it until it's like most things, it becomes a muscle memory where you're not even realizing you're doing those things. So I was certainly challenged in terms of like kind of going, oh, okay, I found that incredibly valuable as an experience, and it kind of made me kind of go, oh, okay, yeah, there's still I'm still excited by really interesting people who've got very distinctive perspectives on things and are rock solid in their thinking and practice within that.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how much you know you've done or how much you've taught. I think there's always value in taking workshops. There's always something to learn, definitely.
I mean, even if you do the same exercise again and again, you'll always learn something new in it.
You're not the same person that did it last time, or you're not with the same people. So definitely.
Exactly. And you know, dependent on the day and dependent on what's happening in the room, you know, and prior to, you know, it all changes. It's like the Gormley sculptures up in Crosby. They're the same statue, but you can go and look at them every day, and they're a different color, they're a different tone, they're a different, you know. So I often think of in a similar way. So thinking about European improv and stuff that you may have seen or experienced or you've heard about or possibly seen or people have mentioned to you, because I think Europe has a very different sort of take on improv. I think it has been heavily influenced by American teaching and styles of teaching, but I think improv, I don't necessarily say I think it's in its infancy. It's certainly not, but it's certainly not viewed by the theatre establishment as perhaps as serious as it might be taken. Whereas I think where might we, because I think or certainly what I've seen and people have mentioned, it seems like almost like theatre is being reinserted, as you said. Our improv is very theatrical because obviously we've got a huge European and British tradition of that. How do you think, or where do you think European improv is moving towards in the next kind of 5 years? Where might it head? Let's vision, to use your term, drill down. I'm gonna let's do some blue sky thinking. There you go.
Let's run this flagpole up the answer and see who selects. I hate what I've begun. For me, the European influence has always been about physicality. You know, commedia dell'arte. You know, the American style of improv is very great at words. It's very cerebral. It's very wordy. It's very funny. But for me, the influence of Europe is that physicality, it's the movement, and that's something that doesn't come naturally to me. So over the years, I've really been trying to practice that. So I would love to see more of that, more kind of theatricality, more using the space. I'm always a big fan of leaving the stage. I think we've done it every show we've done. I've left the stage at some point. And just and getting out amongst the audience. I don't know if that's like a panto tradition thing, but you know, I want to break down that fourth wall. I think that, you know, it's easy to imagine that that's always been, but that's a relatively recent invention in theatre. I want to be out there interacting with the audience, making them part of the show. So that's kind of that would be my hope for, you know, the next sort of 5 years or so. Let's embody more. Let's use our physicality more, and get away from just two people talking to each other. There's no reason we can't do that. That's great too. But I think there's a real richness that we could explore by, you know, being in our bodies rather than just in our heads.
I think European narrative theatre tradition inspires and influences British improv. I think, you know, if you think about the great practitioners of theatre that have changed the way theatre has been done, not all of them, but many are European. You know, whether that's, you know, Commedia dell'arte, or whether that's Brecht, yeah, or Peter Brook, you know, Artaud, you know, there's so many like practitioners of theatre in Europe that have influenced the scripted theatre scene, culture for decades, centuries. So I think how that helped improv in Europe has been that I think there's so many teams that lean towards narrative long form in Britain and in Europe, and I think that's the blend there of the rich theatrical tradition blending with improv to create narrative improv. And whereas America, of course, there'll be narrative teams there, but they're very game, you know, short, sharp, fast, wordy, game, and very, very funny. You know, so maybe I don't know where it's heading, but I just think that's my understanding of why we tend to get a lot of narrative improv in this country is because of the European theatrical tradition.
Yeah. So we kind of get either genre or we get literary genre. So, you know, we kind of get Arthur Conan Doyle. Obviously, we've got, you know,
ostentatious, impromptu Shakespeare,
Jane Austen,
Murder She Didn't Write.
You know, it's endless the amount of genre narrative we have here.
Yeah, but I think that tends to be UK based rather than European. I'd be really interested to kind of go, because we do have a strong literary kind of background. It's around us and we study it, you know. But I wonder, you know, wouldn't it be great to do what's the political improv show? You know, does it take Brecht's techniques of X, Y, and Z, and, you know, like Stuart says, you know, kind of breaking the space or changing the perception of how space is used in improv. You know, I'd love to see, you know, make a show where the audience are on the stage and the improvisers are in the seats, or how you might be able to reframe something. You know, one of the things I'm kind of playing around or noodling away around with is how do we give ownership of structure potentially to an audience? How might they be able to rather than it feeling like we get some ask fors, we've done that bit, we're now trying to demonstrate that this is improvised. Could we do without the ask fors, but we give the ownership or to almost kind of go, it is improvised, but you're going to control how and what takes place in the space without it being word suggestions.
I think that's really exciting, because one of the reasons we get written suggestions is that it's more accessible, it's more democratic
Yeah.
lots more people feel comfortable writing something down and handing it to us, than shouting things out. And also, it's hard to get nuance when you're shouting things out.
Yeah.
So, abandoning the ask falls at the start, but involving the audience in other ways, I think that's hugely exciting.
Because someone went to Flock, and so it's Kathy and Joe went to Flock, and they described how almost there was an orchestra, dance, mix, improvisers. So they blended all these things together to play around with what became, and they described it as one of the best pieces of work they've ever seen, is the scale of. So we obviously say have solo and duo, which very often is dictated to by cost or availability or size of potential spaces that we're playing. Whereas Flock are kind of going, no, we're going to go the reverse of that and play on such a large scale, but everything is being, improvised as one, and all of these different art forms are blending and kind of supporting, yes, anding. So yeah, it's one of those things where I kind of go, okay, so we had the Herald, and teams are still performing the Herald.
Yes, please stop.
Yes.
Please stop. I don't care. Well, first of all, I don't really care what Del Close was doing in 1975. But if Del Close was still around, he wouldn't be doing the Herald now. So let's innovate. What I want to see is, okay, do the Herald if you want. That's fine. I've tried it. I didn't like it, but I did study it, so I understood that I didn't like it. But what I want to see, I want innovation. I want people to be thinking of new ideas, to find the format that only they can do. I really love the idea when people bring of themselves to a show, find out, things they love. And then, let's push this art form forward. Let's not just look to the past, or by all means learn from the past. But we're a new art form. There's loads more to discover. Where's the innovation? That's what I'm hungry for.
I mean, La Ronde is borrowed from the play. So it's kind of like, there are lots of different potential structures. I'm just kind of going, well, what show me. I want to see something different, new. Be the innovator. Be, in lots of ways. The whole thing. There seems to be, and I've mentioned this before, is there's a movement around. If you look back, the first books that came out, obviously Spolin's and Johnson's had theatre in the title. Then you look at the next wave and it's removed, and then you look at the next wave, which is like we're gonna challenge the rules, and now it's like, oh, we're gonna smash it. You don't need rules. It's kind of like almost these waves, and I'm kind of going, well, actually, we're theatre and improv. They're bedfellows. It just so happens to be made in the moment. Why are we potentially moving away? Maybe we need to look at, because I think it's amazing, theatre. If you from the National, the blending of technology, like you said, with power, using projection and stuff. Sometimes I think people are, for convenience or ease or conditions of space, like you said, Improbotics been a show that's hugely technical, and it's been this huge journey. But maybe that's the future. I don't know, but it's one of those things where you kind of go, well, let's push the envelope a little bit and
100%.
sort of step out of the shadow a little bit of American practitioners, because it does seem, what was the book I got? 50 that was written, 50 influential improvisers, blah 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 blah, and there's a tiny little mention of UK. The rest of it's dominated by Americans. You just kind of go, oh, okay. So maybe there's, just kind of forget that, the theatre machine happened in the 60s, kind of touring around Europe and this, that, and the other. Obviously Johnson went off but we've got a long history of that kind of, as you referenced, European history in terms of commedia, looking at those archetypes. I haven't seen most commedia shows aren't really lazzies. They're kind of like, we've got this structure and we're sort of sticking. It's pretty much worked out. It feels false. Whereas, you kind of go, is there a way of being able to train with a group of people in that style, but be able to improvise something that has, you know, we can just draw on that and this and that and the other. And
Yeah. One innovator, Katie Shute, I went
Yeah.
to improvising folklore workshop that she did, and it was hugely inspiring because she's taking, you know, these folklore, these rich stories, and you know, we were improvising as gods and goddesses, and I was just like, I've never done scenes like this before. So it doesn't have to be a complex structure, it can just be the melding of improv with something that hasn't been done before. And I think there's a real richness out there to be explored, and it's there for the taking.
Yeah, we've so Rubbish Shakespeare. We worked on a kid show last year, which is going out on tour, called Storyforge. And the one rule of the Greek gods is that they speak in rhyming couplets, because it means that they're verbally they're different to the mortals. Just put a simple little rule in, and away you go. And it doesn't matter how bad the rhyming couplets are. That's the thing that then becomes, you know, kind of how do you rhyme with Zeus, Deuce, Juice, you know, and blah blah blah, you know, and you can have fun in that manner. So thinking about the future beyond what you're currently working on, have you got any future plans for beyond what you love?
I mean, beyond the Terminator idea that I've
Beyond
now
the
got Emma's
Terminator idea?
official. So I think if it's recorded on this, then I think that's the okay. I think there's still I don't know, actually. I should ask Emma. I've got ideas, but well, how does Emma feel? For me, I'm just going to say that I think there's still quite a lot to explore in this area. And it's the whole idea of with improv, you want to dig one 30-foot hole rather than 10 3-foot holes. So I think there's more to explore in the sort of thing we're doing now. But maybe Emma has other ideas, and maybe this is the time I should find out.
No, I think I just want to perform more gigs. You know, so you know, we'll go to some more festivals, and we'll put on some more shows, because I mean, the idea of relationship is infinite. So no matter, I mean, it's like no matter what show we do or how many times we do it, we're probably going to be exploring a different aspect of relationship, which is such a broad term. um and so I think there's a lot, there's way more to go, and also just us as a duo, there's way more for us to explore. Like recently we you know, a couple of years back we started multi-rolling a little bit more. I think there's like structural things that we could probably do. Like it crossed my mind last time we did a gig that we could do a split scene and cross cut, and but that didn't happen, but it was just an idea. It's like I think we can explore um more things within us and just perform more.
I
And
think
then
that
when we find, I think, I'm guessing, but when we find that if we're just reiterating the same type of relationship dynamic, if we just rinse and repeat, then it's time to innovate. But I just think relationship dynamic is pretty infinite, and let's see where that goes.
and Emma often asks me, is there anything I particularly want to try this show? So each show we do, we kind of one time we said, oh, maybe we'll do monologues. We don't know if we will, but you know, we might do, so we might try monologues. So there's always we're always trying different things within the show. But I think exploring the idea of connection has never been more timely. You know, with social media, with everything that's going on in the world, you know, we're celebrating friends, we're celebrating family, we're you know, hopefully trying to bring people together. So you know, I think I'd like to stick with that theme regardless of what the format is. But you know, I think you know, connection's so important these days.
I think especially because we consciously choose to speak to the positive. So maybe it would be relatively easy to do a relationship improv where it's conflictual and bickering, and that, well, as Stu puts it, you're on different sides. Whereas we actively try and um, speak to the positive and be on the same side, character wise, as each other, because like you say, because you know, the world's full of doom and gloom, and people's lives are heavy, heavy, heavy. So come to a show, come to Moses and Bird and see a positive spin, or what you love is what it's called. And we ask the audience to reflect on what they love about the people in their lives. So that's the first thing. Second thing, we then create something, improvise about a positive relationship. Hopefully that again is a kind of a feel good aspect to our show, really. And there's plenty more to come from that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. You can catch Moses and Bird in What You Love on Thursday, the 24th of April at 7 p.m. Tickets are available from the Unity website. Thank you so much, Stuart. Thank you so much, Emma.
Thank you very much indeed. Looking forward to seeing you all there.
Yeah, have a great evening.
Cheers, you too.
Ta-ra.
Bye.
Yeah!